Hey, what's up guys? This is Gary coming to you with another ESTEST video, and this video is going to be about the patch notes for the upcoming version of ESTEST 1.1. And so you see here we have the web page for our changelog available at the ESTEST track wiki, and we're going to go over each of these points that are going to go into patch 1.1 of ESTEST. So to start out with, we've developed the functionality for groups in ESTEST, and this has been a highly wanted feature. Basically what's going to happen is to create a group, you're going to have to contact your system administrator, and they're the ones that are going to have to create the group for you and then assign users to that group. But once the users are assigned, the users themselves can assign a group to their documents and then share them with that group or not share them with that group or the world. So let me first show you how the administrator is going to go about creating groups and assigning users to groups. So if you go ahead and go to the local host where your ESTEST is installed, there's going to be a new alias under administration/groups/admin.cgi. And this is going to give you the CGI sort of web page to manage groups as the system administrator of ESTEST. So you can see there's a form that will allow you to add a group, and then the rest of these are groups that already exist along with the users that are part of that group. So first thing, let's try to add a group. So you have to provide the group name and as well as an initial list of group users, and this has to contain one or more users. So let's go ahead and just add some users here. And you see here there's a handy autofill if you don't quite remember what the usernames are. And you just say add group, and it's going to ask you for your exist admin password. So just go ahead and enter that in. You see here we now have a new group called ESLab with these members. And again, you can add and remove users from here. So let's go ahead and remove the tester user. So every time you have one of these operations, it's going to ask you for your password. And we can just easily add him back in. If you get this sort of error, it's basically you typed in your password wrong, so that's not a problem. You can just go back to admin and say tester add. Okay, so we have this group with these users. Basically what these users are going to see is that they now belong to this group in their account manager interface, and then they can manage their documents with their groups. So I'm going to show what that looks like now in the updated account manager for patch 1.1. So go back to the local ESTEST server, and we are logged in as tester. And basically this is what he sees on his account page. You notice that there are these glyphs that signify the new sort of way we display permissions for documents. So this icon here that consists of 3 dots, that signifies that this document is being shared with the group assigned to that document. And then this other icon, which is a sphere, a filled-in sphere, it signifies it's going to be shared with the world. So there are basically 3 classes of permissions for ESTEST. There is the write permission, which is exclusively belonging to the owner. That means that the owner can create and delete their documents. There is the read permission, which extends to the owner, the group, and the world, and that just basically means that one of those entities can read that document. And then the last one is the update permission, which extends to the owner and the group, which means that that document can be changed somehow after it's created, whether it be a comment or some kind of keyword, for instance, but that document can't be deleted with only the update privilege. You're going to need the write privilege to delete it. So that's what these permission signifiers mean, and it's pretty easy to change them for any one or a batch of documents. All you have to do is to check them here, and we go over to our document actions interface. You see here there are 2 new buttons, one for group and one for share. First I'll talk about the share button. Basically if you click share, it's going to come up with this interface to assign the permission for the group or the world. And you can fill in any combination of these two to add that permission to this document. So if I didn't want to share these documents with anyone, say I just want to keep them for myself, I would leave these two blank and say check. And then we see here that both those permissions for the group and the world have been removed. Now say I just want to share that with the group. You can say group, check the group here, and then say again. And then that's going to be shared with the group. And I keep on saying the group, but what is the group? Well, a group is assigned per document, and by default the group is going to be all registered users, but you can change that using the second button in this interface. So if I go ahead back and check all and click group now, you can go ahead and select a group. You see here that tester belongs to the groups of users and ESLab. So by default it's going to be users, but we can also change it to ESLab, and we can say group that together. And now this document is belonging to ESLab. So if you hover over the group icon, it's going to tell you what group it belongs to. And these documents belong to the group of users, which is all registered users. So just using these two UI interface elements, you can pretty much flexibly change the groups and the permissions belonging to each of your documents pretty easily. And keep in mind that you can also, change the permissions of the world. There's usually going to be read, but you can also take away that read permission as you see fit. Okay, so going back to our changelog now. So we've talked about the administrative aspect of groups, and we've talked about the UI changes for the documents in the account manager. We've also added this concept of default mask at the server level for the administrator, which I won't go over, but we've also added it for a per user basis. So basically what that means is that in settings, now if you go to edit your settings, there is this new widget here that is the default sharing permissions. So whenever you upload a document, that document is going to be assigned a set of permissions, and those permissions are going to be based explicitly on first the default mask for the server if you haven't set it per user, or here for the user. So you can say by default when I upload a document, I want to share it with no one, or I want to share it with the group, or I want to share it with the group and the world. So if you just check those and say submit, we see now that our default mask is to keep all the permissions for you, the user, as well as add the read and update permissions for the group and the read permission for the world. So that's basically that change. Okay, so if we can go back to our changelog, that's the new features that go into 1.1 concerning groups and permissions. The next feature is to do with search and search results. And what we've basically been working on is this idea of transforming search results in an XSLT type transform to give a sort of different view of search in general in ESTEST. So let's see what that looks like. If we go back to our ESTEST page, we can go to the home page and just perform any kind of search, right? So we search for tester and we get all the documents belong to the user tester. You see this new element is a view, and it's going to have two buttons. One is XML and then one is this folder icon. And these are sort of the transforms of the search. Well, the search is already a transform of what I'm going to display now. If you click XML, it's going to give you the sort of XML markup of all the search results from all the servers, and this is really the most basic view of search documents in ESTEST. This is the underlying format of search results that you can now access directly in an XML form to sort of perform your own XSLT transforms, if you will. If we go back and click on this folder or directory icon, it's going to give you another view of search that is an XSLT transform of that XML document. And this view is basically going to generate the hierarchy that we're sort of used to seeing in ESTEST on the account level, now applied to search results. So you can really get a sort of structural view of the search based on how people have named them based on their directories. And again, you can sort of do all the things that you would normally do in search, say check a bunch of documents and compare them or process them with plugins. And hopefully this is a different way that may be easier sometimes to find what you're looking for in search results. Okay, So go back to the changelog again. We've covered the groups and permissions. We've covered the new search and the transforms of the search results. A sort of internal change we've done is with the QBox translator to handle sort of parsing of larger XML files. But we also made the decision that really uploading huge XML documents or huge inputs and outputs to ESTEST is not really a great idea for the time being. And these generally consist of MD documents that aren't very well treated in the framework as of yet. So what we've done to sort of discourage this is, one, we've kept the 10 megabyte post limit on ESTEST, and that's always been there. So you can only upload files in tar archives up to 10 megabytes. But we've also added a second check to basically say, well, uncompressed, how large are these files? And we've said, oh, if they're larger than 10 megabytes for the uncompressed file individually, we're still going to reject those, to sort of, again, discourage uploading really large MD simulation I/O that isn't very useful, in fact, in ESTEST currently, and in fact breaks the retranslation process to a certain extent. And this is something we'll be working on in the future, but for now, we're just going to say we're going to discourage those uploads by putting this sort of cap. So let's see what that looks like. So if I'm tester and I want to go to create some document, I can say choose an archive, and I've chosen an archive here that explicitly has some very large I/O, and in fact the output file is 64 megabytes. If I go to submit this file now, it's going to say an error. Okay, this file, 96 Bernal cell dyn.r is too large to upload, and that basically means that that file, when it's been uncompressed from the archive, exceeds 10 megabytes. And so now there's a way, if you're the system administrator and you feel like 10 megabytes is maybe too small for your purposes, there are ways to change that. You can change it at the post limit, and you can also change it at this sort of inflation or decompressed limit for the file as well. So those are basically the changes coming up in patch 1.1 of ESTEST, and I hope this video has given you a good sense of it. As always, go to our website at estest.ucdavis.edu, and thank you very much.